Hello! Today I have a reaction video. This video is actually sponsored by a viewer, fan, I don't know what to call you guys, subscriber, whatever. But what happened is that I was in one of my live streams playing a video game and this guy stopped by and I was talking about fish. He was like, "Oh, you like fish?" I was like, "Well, I just went on this whole journey. You gotta watch the old videos to catch yourself up, right?" And then he was like, "Oh, well, I'd like you to listen to Billy Strings." I'm like, "Well, if you want me to listen to something faster, I have a long wait list. You got a sponsor." So he sent me Cash App. Yay! $10, which again is a small token for how much time I put into making and editing these videos. But I'm happy to do it because I think I bring a unique take to this stuff. I did get a degree in opera singing after all. I do play piano. Let me just arrange my situation here. I have my piano here. Sometimes I can jam along with whatever I'm listening to. So he said I should listen to this person called Billy Strings, who's apparently the name of the lead singer guitarist, but his name is also happens to be Billy Strings. I don't know if someone could actually be named Billy Strings and happen to play strings. Like, if that's true, wow. If it's a stage name, even better. But it's hard for me to believe that. So he said I should listen to, this is called Richard Petty, and it's off the new album. This live one looks pretty good. So 2 minutes. I like that. That's easy compared to my fish live reviews of a 30-minute version of Yem, for example. I may be able to listen to two things then, because we have this one. Oh, and then there's a song called Dust in a Baggie. Apparently that's what got him famous. So let's listen to this. I'm going to keep an open mind, and we'll go from here.
Now one of these days I'll wake up tired of the life I'm living and feel inspired to get off my ass, and be on my way. One of these days I'll wake up steady and ready to go like Richard Petty. I'm gonna wake up and change my ways. One of these days, one of these days, one of these days, I'm gonna find me a better way to live my life, and carry on without the strife. I know it won't come easy, but believe me when I say I'm gonna wake up and change my ways. One of these days, one of these days I'm coming up to it, gonna put my foot right down and do it. It's about damn time.
It's about damn time.
I made a change. One of these days I'm bound for glory, and that's the moral of this whole story. I'm gonna wake up and change my ways. One of these days, one of these days,
one of these days,
I'm gonna find me a better way to live my life, and carry on without the strife. I know it won't come easy, but believe me when I say I'm gonna wake up and change my ways. One of these days, one of these days,
one of these days,
I'm gonna find me a better way to live my life, and carry on without the strife. I know it won't come easy, but believe me when I say I'm gonna wake up and change my ways. One of these days, I'm gonna wake up and change my ways. One of these days.
Wow, that was really cool. Okay, so that was like an a cappella rendition. No accompaniment. I like how they were all singing out of one old-fashioned microphone. I mean, it looks old-fashioned, but that's very a cappella. That's very Americana. So I'm not going to call that country music. To me, it's like an Americana tradition. The way that they have the long hair, they just look like Little House on the Prairie. Like, did you ever watch Little House on the Prairie and it was like Laura Ingalls Wilder and then like Pa and all that? I don't know. When I think of like America, I just think of guys that look like that. You don't really see that outside of America. I don't know. It's just like, that's American, like long hair, the little scruffy beard. I like that. The guitars, we got a banjo. Is that another banjo? a mandolin. I don't know. This is cool. Like that's very Americana. I liked the harmonies. One of these days. Oh, also when they did the like impromptu key change, that was great because he just did that without any accompaniment, like all by ear when he did the key change. That was cool.
One of these days.
One of these days. One of these days. The harmonies, high, low, and middle harmony. Very cool. Very, like, something I've never listened to this type of music. I've listened to a little country music. I've been to Stagecoach. This is different. So I'm now really curious about what they've done in the past because I don't have any context. This is the one that, okay, 6 years ago. This must be the performance that broke him out. Oh, the Grand Ole Opry. Famous place.
I ain't slept in 7 days, I haven't eaten 3. Methamphetamine has got a damn good hold of me. My tweaker friends have got me to the point of no return. I just took the lighter to the bulb and watch it burn. This life of sin has got me in. Well, it's got me back in prison once again. I used my only phone call to contact my daddy. Got 20 long years for some dust in a baggie. Listen to what Mom and Papa said. I wouldn't be locked up in prison, troubled in head. I took that little pipe and sucked into my mind was fun. But I got 20 years to sit and think of what I've done. This life of sin has got me in. Well, it's got me back in prison once again. I used my only phone call to contact my daddy. Got 20 long years for some dust in a bag of Jared Walker. Jailhouse blues have got me singing this old song. My life is a disaster, Lord, and I feel so ashamed. Cause I'm where they call me by a number, not a name. This life of sin has got me in. Well, it's got me back in prison once again. I used my only phone call to contact my daddy. Got 20 long years for some dust in a baggie. Got me back in prison once again. Used my only phone call to contact my daddy. Got 20 long years for some dust in a baggie. I used my only phone call to contact my daddy. Got 20 long years for some dust in a baggie. Thank you folks so much.
What a beautiful tone of that guitar. Okay, first of all, this is America. Like, this is the most American thing ever. I love that I am an American. This kind of music makes me feel so patriotic. When I was growing up, there was this art fair, but they also had, like, a fiddle jamboree. It was, like, always, like, the art fair and fiddle jamboree, and all the fiddlers would come out, and it was, like, like this kind of style, bluegrass. I don't know if this is, again, I'm not an expert in country music, which this is not. Okay, country has made itself into so many different pieces. Like, I think now country, I think this would now fall under country, but country itself is split into so many different routes, and now pop country is so different than what country was. So it's just hard to even see it as one. Like now, pop country is practically like EDM. The stuff you hear, Luke Bryan is basically like pop, but it's country. Okay, this is like classic. This is like, again, they're at the Grand Ole Opry, right? Grand Ole Opry. And I want to say these guys are extremely talented. I like that they can all sing. Now, I think so. We got a banjo, we got the guitar. Love that. Is that a okay? Nice acoustic with electric plug-in. I think that's a mandolin. Okay, I don't know because it's not a. Well, that's a banjo over there on the right, but this one, that's not a ukulele because ukuleles only have four, but it's a very small little thing. So I wonder if that's called a mandolin. Though I thought mandolins have 12 strings, but whatever it is, I'll look it up later. But honestly, like that's amazing. I love the little, you know. The bassists, of course, they're always tall because the bass is so tall. So you got to be pretty tall to play the bass. And of course, he's the tallest, so that makes sense. They're kind of adorable. Not kind of. I think they're very adorable. I think this is a great song, and I think honestly, that's a very real topic. Basically, the person got sent to prison just because he had dust in a baggie, right? Little drugs, right? And I do think, if you think about what's happened to our country, that we've had. I live in California, by the way, so just full disclosure, I live in one of the tech centers. So I live in a place that has not been neglected, that has been developed, and jobs and industry and tech and all this stuff. But in the Midwest, in the Rust Belt, they had a lot of economic disparity, and they had factories shutting down in Detroit, the collapse of the auto industry, American industry, all this stuff got shut down, and you saw record numbers of drug overdoses, the fentanyl, oxy, people addicted to oxy and all that. And it really, like the actual life expectancy of Americans actually went down, which shouldn't have happened. But I believe if you lived in like the Rust Belt or like rural places and these kind of states, your life expectancy went down pretty significantly over the 2010s, and now we're in mid 2020s, right? So I do think there's a lot of there's such a culture war. It's not. They want to make the media wants to make it a culture war. I just think that people live in such different places, and America is so diverse, but we don't always get a picture of what that is. And I think one reason I have a very unique perspective is that although I live in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area now, I grew up in Redding, California. And I didn't even actually grow up in Redding, California. I grew up in a small suburb, and by suburb I mean a town of like 500 people called Old Shasta. And Old Shasta was a historical mining town. People came for the gold rush. And so after the gold rush, the industry turned to logging. And then we also had a big influx of people from Oklahoma, the Okies. I don't mean this derogatory. This is just like Steinbeck, okay, Grapes of Wrath. So they built a dam. They built the Shasta Dam and the Keswick Dam to like support the Shasta Dam in the 1930s during the Great Depression. And so Redding got an influx of all these people who were fleeing because of the dust. What's it called? The Dust Belt? Yeah. So they lost all their crops. They came out to Central Valley, California, because the entire Central Valley of California, there's like mountain ranges on the sides, Sierra Nevada, all this. And in the middle is just like fertile farmland. And so Redding's at the top of that, and it goes all the way down to Bakersfield. And so that part of California has always been Republican. It's always been conservative. It has never aligned itself politically with the, very liberal Bay Area and Los Angeles, which everybody knows those are some of the most like liberal cities in America. Yet geographically, we're so close. So like I could go drive to Redding from where I am in like 4 hours, 3.5 hours. Redding is so different that they even had a movement called the State of Jefferson, where they want to secede from California and basically create a state that's Southern Oregon and far North California. Look it up. It's called the State of Jefferson. Have you even heard of this? It's the most interesting thing. And so our NPR station growing up was called Jefferson Public Radio. And so it's a definite thing. And up there, like you could drive on these roads out in the mountains, and you see these people who like they never come to town. You know what I mean? These people are like backwater people. Okay, so it's just so different. And so you kind of get the narrative. You get a lot of the urban narrative in America, like the urban poor versus the urban rich, but you often don't hear of the rural poor. But in my opinion, I grew up with the rural poor. There was these kids. So I lived 3 miles outside of Reading in Shasta, and that was already just a lot of sparse properties. People had acreage and all that. And we'd have to walk. All we had was one little post office that had one gas station that had one little general store. So we'd like walk, I'd walk about half mile to get to this, like, maybe it's a mile even. It was like to get to this little general store, and me and my brothers used to buy candy, and I remember that candy back then was only 50 cents. I sound like my parents right now because they used to be like, when I was a kid, a Snickers bar was only 5 cents. You know, now I'm like, when I was a kid, a Snickers bar was only 50 cents. But I was eating Willy Wonka Nerds and all that. So I'm living in this small town. I'm growing up on 15 acres on land that used to be mined in the gold rush. There's like a historic, all that was left of Shasta besides for that post office and the little store was basically, they rebuilt this like historic state park that had a courthouse that looked like it was in the time period, and they had like a Masonic lodge, and then they had these ruins which had formerly been shops that all burned down in like the Great Fire. Okay, so I grew up in this like small place, and it was also on the way to a lake called Whiskeytown Lake, a lake that was also created by a dam that I believe Kennedy came to dedicate it. So it's just like a very interesting area. But the point is, when I hear this kind of Americana music, it just reminds me of my childhood in Reading, and the fact that there's like the fiddle jamboree, and like there's this kind of American people that came from the Midwest that kind of just settled in Reading and then just kind of kept up with the culture. But they've always been the same. It's never changed. It's like, it's not like they've always been the same. It's just the world around them changed. And Reading is almost like a vortex. Like, we're talking, there were people who their school out in French Gulch. So French Gulch was like 45 minutes away from my little town. My elementary school was a kindergarten through 8th grade, but there was one classroom per grade. And that's it. Tiny little rural town, okay? But there were kids who were coming out from farther up the mountain. They were in a school that only had kindergarten, first, and second. And I think they might have all been in one classroom, like it was the Little House on the Prairie, okay? So then starting in 3rd grade, they would get bused into our school so they could continue their education past 2nd grade, okay? I'm not kidding, okay? So some of these kids didn't even have running water, okay? They like literally would show up and they were like brushing their teeth at school because they didn't have running water in their house. So I just felt that like I saw the most poverty-stricken people, and they were white, by the way, okay? They'd been there all along. They never left. They've been living in the mountains all this time. They don't have any economic prospects because, again, they took away the logging industry, and then all these people lost their jobs. And in my high school, so my dad was a doctor, and so we moved there because he took a job in the hospital. So I was like the anomaly in the town. I came from like out of there. You know, my parents were from LA. I'm from like a very different type of family, right? But then I'm literally got exposure to these people. And there was a lot of meth. There was a lot of those kind of problems, you know. So people would get involved in these afflictions of squalor, addiction, alcoholism, drug addiction, all this stuff. And it's honestly, these communities have been neglected by the federal government. I'm not saying that's the federal government's like job to do that, but I just think there's been a lot of help towards other communities, and there's been a lot of help towards a lot of focus on urban areas, and they get a lot of the attention. And then the people out in the middle of nowhere who literally have nothing to their name, there just wasn't many prospects for them. It was kind of like, all right, well, you can, you know, the really successful guys, they went to fight in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then when they got back, they became CAL FIRE. That's our best firefighters ever, the best California firefighters of all time. And then the police, you know, if you were like Reading Police Department or like Shasta County Sheriff, it was like, oh, that's like a good job. And and then maybe the successful women become like nurses or teachers. And and then like of course hairstylists, like I love my hairstylist, so it'd always be like my friend became a hairstylist and she was married to a cop, and then so it's just like a very all-American place. What's my point? This kind of music just brings me back. It's like, oh, I'm from Reading, like I'm a country folk, even though I was a transplant, but I still feel a lot of affinity towards, like, it's a sad story. I mean, this thing, it's like dust in a baggie, now he's in jail, you know, and but the positive of states like California is they kind of decriminalize a lot of drug use. So on one hand, that's good, but on the other hand, you end up with the streets of San Francisco. So the streets of San Francisco are just like, I don't know if you know, but there's basically a lot of homeless people who are drug addicts, and the city of San Francisco gives them drugs because they don't believe that they're addicts. They believe that they have a disease, and so why should we discriminate against them? So then they're just kind of shooting up in the street and defecating in the street, and the street is basically bad. No one wants to go there. The businesses have to move out. So there's like, obviously I don't have answers to politics. Like, I am just a simple music teacher. I just teach kids how to sing and how to play piano, and I teach fitness. You know, my life is very simple, but I really like this Billy Strings. It's not music I would ever listen to.
I would have listened to what Mom and Papa said. I wouldn't be locked up in prison, troubled in hell.
But he's a great singer. I mean, I just love the style. It's so great, and they're all so good. So yeah, I'm impressed. Let's see, what was this last song he wants me to listen to? Gild the Lily, which is apparently very different than his other stuff. Alright, that's the lyric video. I'm really into the live ones, personally.
Thank you all so much for coming out tonight and hearing this bit. Happy Halloween to everybody. Hope you're having a damn good time. We got Chris Jacobs up here. Mr. Matt Smith on the cello. And Dwayne Trucks on the drums.
I'm getting percussion.
It's a family affair. perfection. It must be nice to just be heard. It might sound a bit absurd. I'd sing along with the birds. I'd sing along if I only knew the words. I'd sing along with the birds if I only knew the words. I'd master every verse till my spirit turned to birds into the morning sun. While my heart is on the run.
Hold on, I have to stop mid-song because that's like one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. Just like, I would sing with the birds if I only knew the words, and then like the way that harmony progression like resolved. It was like so beautiful. It's so genuine. It's so relatable, you know? Yeah, sorry. I just like got really caught in that moment, but it's stunning. And then like the cello and like the violin, like it's really interesting. And also like this is very cross genre. It definitely has the country Americana roots, but there's a lot going on here with having other things going on. And it's really interesting musically. It's not just like a boring progression. There was like a different shift there. So I want to keep listening, but I was just like, I had to stop because I was crying. So. All the wind in the whistling bird that whispered to give me day, just to see if there was anyone to listen. Say if the rain will fall to resurrect the flowers of May. You can't know who you love until you miss them. It must be nice to just be heard. It might sound a bit absurd. I'd sing along with the birds. Like that. I kind of really
I'd sing along if I only knew the words. I'd sing along with the birds if I only knew the words.
That was really pretty. Okay, let's just look up what Google says. Okay, Nashville blues. Oh, okay. There we go. Bluegrass. Bluegrass album. 1992. Look, his father died of a heroin overdose. What am I telling you? This is literally the afflicted people, okay? Lansing, Michigan. Rust Belt. I was right again. Okay. His parents became addicted to meth. Oh, but his mother remarried an accomplished amateur bluegrass musician. Okay, so that helped, but then they became addicted to meth. And then they got sober. That's so sad. Okay, he's California sober. Okay, bluegrass. He got to like listen to a lot of different stuff and also rock and metal. Oh, look, one of his influences is Phish and the Dead. Okay, that makes sense. Apostol got his stage name Billy Strings from his aunt, who saw his ability on multiple traditional bluegrass. Okay, so it's not his real name. That's what I thought. I was like, if your real name is Billy Strings, that would be crazy. Mandolin player. Okay, so he had a mandolin player. Best top new country artists. Bluegrass prodigy. Kind of a big deal. Rolling Stone. Wow. It's really impressive. Oh, he got married to a yoga instructor. Oh, and they have a baby. Oh, that's so sweet. Well, wow, William Lee Apostol, aka Billy Strings. What did I tell you? American Rust Belt, the affliction, drugs of the diseases of affliction, drug abuse, alcoholism. It's sad. So like that's a lot to write about, and like a lot of people relate to that. Also, it was not fair that all of these people, so many people had major sadness. They lost their parents to addiction. It's a lot of people actually. Like I watched all these documentaries, like people being raised by their grandparents. Like there are problems in our country. But I'm telling you, part of the main problem is that this part of the country was literally left with no industry and no way to make money and no prospects for a lot of these people, especially like young men. A lot of them don't have prospects for jobs because a lot of them are in the manual labor fields. If you take away manual labor, whereas women tend to kind of fend for themselves, they become nurses, teachers, secretaries. Like it seems that works out. But when you don't have any economic prospects and you live in a place without jobs and the culture becomes very heavy to like drink and to do with drugs, you end up with a big problem. So I don't know why. Like I kind of just sensed all this before I even read his article. But anyway, I went on a lot of like rants today about kind of my background, how my unique background of having Angelino parents but being raised in a small, let's just call it what it is. Redding's like, we have a cowboy rodeo parade and we're kind of redneck, okay? Like I don't know what else to call it. It's like red, and in Redding they even have this accent, like born and bred, in California. That's what the accent in Redding is kind of like, because they kind of inherited like the Oklahoma accent. And there's some things that I say when I'm not trying to speak in my very radio announcer voice, I kind of will say like, you know, like kind of talk like this. It's like it's very hot. Like I caught the ball. I slept in a cot. You know, bot, robot, bot. It's the same. We don't say bot. We say bot. Anyway, I digress. But that's just a little more about me. If you have any stories of affliction coming from the Rust Belt, small town Americana, experience with bluegrass at all, I'm interested to hear that. So I guess in a way this is kind of like a bluegrass rock country jam band, like, which is cool. But I really liked their a cappella one that I heard first. I also really liked their one that like broke them out famous. And then this song was just gorgeous. Like I literally cried, as you saw. That was like absolutely genuine. Because part of my strength, which is also my weakness, is I'm an empath. So I'm very receptive to feelings, but that also means when I'm around people, I absorb people's energy. So if people are happy people, I absorb the happiness. If people are troubled or going through stuff, I actually start to feel the trouble. So that's a downside, but on the general thing, it's good because it makes me very empathetic and kind and caring and nurturing to people. But sometimes I have to take care of myself and I have to just be like, no boundary, like I need my own space and I can't be around that kind of negativity because it really, really impacts me. All right, everybody, till next time on my very interesting channel, Erica Reacts. And today was Erica Reacts to Billy Strings. Thank you for the recommendation. I really appreciate the $10 gift that really helped me. It pushes me to do it because I have like a really big guilt complex. So if someone pays me money, I'm just a very honest person. I've never stolen anything in my life. So if someone pays me money, I'm like, gotta get it done yesterday, you know? So if you want me to like review a certain particular performance, a particular band, a particular genre, just send me a message or in the Cash App, just tell me what you want to do and I'll get it and I will do it. I'll put it on my list, and the more someone pays me, it goes to the top of the list. So you're welcome to bid and piano bid out each other. Please subscribe, please share, and until next time.